That was freaky. Yes.
Hi everyone, welcome to Read Nourish, Balancing Your Hunger. Wow, we have a great turnout tonight. It's because of the free food, isn't it? We're going to get to that in a little bit, but first let me introduce everyone. My name is Veronica VanCleave. This is Michelle Bachman, Katie Hickok, and Kirsten Noe. We're senior level nutrition students here at Chico State, and we're here today to talk to you guys about hunger, fullness, and the risks associated with dieting and eating disorders. So let's look at what we have planned. First, I'm going to be talking to you about hunger and why it's so important to feed your hunger when you first start to feel it. Then after that, Michelle's going to give you some great tips to have snacks with you throughout the day before she takes you through a mindful snacking activity. Then once you have some food in you, Katie's going to talk to you about fullness and why it's so important to really feel your fullness. Then Kirsten's going to share with you her personal experience and talk about the risks associated with dieting and eating disorders. But before we get to all that, I just have a question for everyone. By a show of hands, how many of you got enough sleep last night? So like at least 6 hours. Wow, probably less than half of us, right? Well, did you know that when you don't get enough sleep, you actually experience hunger differently than you would if you did get enough sleep? There was this study that was published in New York Times, and it showed that when people didn't get enough sleep, it changed their eating behavior and their food choices. They tended to choose more empty-calorie foods, or foods with a lot of added fat and sugar, and less of the nutrients like fiber, vitamins, and minerals, things that keep you feeling full and energized throughout the day. Not only that, they also tended to overeat when they ate. So sleep is important, we know that. But when it comes down to it, we all experience hunger in our own way, right? I mean, maybe you don't even realize that you feel hungry until you get to this point. You just run out of fuel. You hit a wall. It could happen to any of us. We're college students. We have really busy schedules and a million different things distracting us from feeling our hunger. But studies show that when you put off your hunger and you don't feed your body when you first need it, it's a lot like not getting enough sleep when it comes to food choices and eating behavior. So when you pair not getting enough sleep with putting off your hunger, your chances for choosing less nutritious foods and for overeating are that much more increased. So it's important to feed your body when you first start to feel hungry. We know that. But when it comes down to it, we all experience hunger in our own way. Maybe you get to this point, then you finally get some food in your hands, and it looks like this. You're just unstoppable. You've got to get that food in you because you haven't had fuel all day. Well, not only that, but when you haven't eaten all day and say you're on campus or you're at work all day, you're a lot more likely to spend your last dollar to get something cheap and quick and easy to eat, right? I know I am. Like, for example, I don't normally find hot dogs very appetizing, like at all. But if I'm on campus and I haven't eaten all day and I pass one of those hot dog stands with the cooking hot dogs, that smell really starts to lure me in. And if I do go to class without having eaten something, it looks a lot like this, right? You can't concentrate. It is so hard to concentrate when you haven't eaten. And that's because our stomachs are basically wired to our brain and they nag it until we put food in there. Because hunger is basically our body's way to get us to meet one of our most basic needs, which is just fuel for energy, right? But when it comes down to it, we do all experience hunger differently. Like, I don't know about you guys, but when I get really hungry, I start to feel like this. Yeah, you wouldn't like me when I'm hungry. We've all experienced the wrath of hunger, right? Whether it be our own or someone else's, there is no doubt that hunger affects some of our moods pretty negatively. But enough about how I experience hunger. What I want to know is, how do you all experience hunger differently? Does anyone want to share about a time that they were really hungry and maybe they acted out of character or something really interesting happened? Anyone? No? All right. Well, I'll tell my story and then maybe you all will feel a little more open and willing to share some of your stories. This one time I was really, really hungry. I'd been held over at work. I hadn't eaten all day. So when I was on my way home, I was just fantasizing about how I was going to make myself this bomb grilled cheese sandwich. So I finally got home, got into the kitchen, went to get my ingredients, just to find that my roommate had eaten all the rest of the bread and cheese. And we didn't have any more food in the apartment. So I was really hangry at this point. So I ran out of the apartment, I went to go to my car to drive somewhere to get something to eat. And just as I was leaving, my roommate pulled up with her parents, who I had never met before. So she tried to introduce me to her parents while I was in this hanger state, and it did not go well. It went something like this. Hi, Veronica, these are my parents. And I said, hi, nice to meet you. By the way, we're out of cheese, and just stormed off, got into my car, drove off, got some food in me, and then it all hit me. How rude I had been, and how it just wasn't cool for me to act that way to my roommate. So I had to go home and have this awkward conversation about what happens when I get hungry. And luckily she still speaks to me and we're still friends, but we're just not roommates anymore, for different reasons, I think. But enough about my story. I want to hear about your stories. Is anyone else willing to share now about a time that they were really hungry and maybe acted out of character? Anyone? Yes, thank you. Go See? That just goes to show we all experience hunger in our own way. Well, now that we've talked about hunger, let's go back over the benefits of feeding your hunger when you first start to feel it. You're going to have more energy for those long days at school and at work. When you feed your hunger, when you first start to feel it, you regulate eating better, so you make more nutritious food choices, and you don't tend to overeat. You can focus and concentrate in class and on assignments because your brain has more energy. And you're going to decrease drama in your life by reducing incidences of hunger, right? So now that we've talked about all the benefits of feeding your hunger when you first start to feel it, Michelle's going to give you some great tips to have snacks with you throughout the day before she takes you through a mindful snacking activity. So here's Michelle. Thank you, everyone.
Hi, everyone. I'm Michelle. I'm going to speak to you a little bit about planning snacks to satisfy your hunger. So Veronica spoke a little bit about feeding your hunger and listening to your hunger cues. She talked about starving, about how it can affect your mental and physical performance. The opposite side of the picture of starving is, of course, being stuffed, as you can see on the hunger scale. Overeating can just be just as detrimental as not feeding your hunger, but we'll get to that a little bit later. Generally, you want to try to feed your hunger around the 4 or 3 mark, where you're beginning to feel hungry, maybe your stomach's making a little bit of sound, maybe you feel a little bit run down and need a boost of energy. If you eat a snack in between meals, like most college students seem to, at least most of the ones I know, and you stop around 5 or 6 when you're satisfied or not hungry anymore, that'll give you energy without causing the side effects of completely ignoring your hunger. Remember to ask yourself each time you start to eat, ask yourself where you are on the scale, between classes or at lunchtime, to make sure that you never reach that horrible state of starvation. The name of the game is definitely planning. So remember to ask yourself, if you're going to be on campus for 8 hours, with only an hour break for lunch, you're probably going to need some more food. Maybe you've got 2 labs or 4 classes in a row. Chances are you're going to get hungry in the middle of those classes. Eating a lot during 1 hour lunch may only make the problem worse. Because, well, who doesn't need a snack every once in a while? If you're full then, you may be really hungry later. It's not going to fix the problem. If you make use of the breaks between classes, and prepare, easy snacks, you won't be caught unaware. Stressful eating is not good eating. It doesn't do your body any good if you're not eating the right things in the right way. So let's talk about options. Anybody here like campus snacks? Did I see a few maybes? Okay, well, I'll admit, I like chips every once in a while. But am I going to buy them on campus? No, I'm not. Why? They are expensive. I mean, I can go to Costco and buy a huge bag or a huge box of snacks, throw them in baggies myself, and save a lot of money. So, who's really in the mood for chips every day anyway? I know I'm not. So maybe that morning you decided you wanted fruit or nuts. Wouldn't it be nice to have what you wanted to eat on hand? So eating snacks on campus isn't really the best way to eat either. It's not balanced. Chips, candy bars, really? Maybe you're craving it, but it's not really balanced. It may not be the type of energy boost you need that day or at that time. When you ignore your hunger cues and have to wait until classes are over, you have a much higher chance of overeating by grabbing something that just doesn't satisfy you. Overeating can lead to pain, nausea, in my case, tiredness, or hangry. Maybe you get hangry. I don't, I just get tired. I go from feeling, tired, run down, to absolutely miserable and run down, which is not a good choice, is it? If you plan ahead, though, you won't have to resort to finding something to eat on campus that may not necessarily satisfy you. My advice, start with something you like. Do you like fruit? Apples, pears, peaches. You can cut just about anything up and put it in a bag. What about veggies? Celery, carrots are great. What about peanut butter? They're easy to prepare ahead of time. You can cut up veggies and fruits and put them in bags. Peanut butter can be stored in a container. Maybe you prefer chips with your peanut butter. Put them in a bag. They'll go right along with it. Focus on foods that give you energy and that taste good to you. Fruits, nuts, veggies, and starches like crackers or granola are a great choice. What about cookies? Cookies a good choice? Yes, absolutely they're a good snack, in moderation. Bring a couple cookies to school to satisfy a sweet tooth before you're starving. That way, you get your sugar fix and avoid eating way too much. But try not to eat on the go. It's great to have foods you enjoy on hand, but if you eat while walking across campus or reading or playing on your phone, then you're not going to get the full effect of the food you actually eat. Always try to eat without distractions. This will help you gauge your hunger and fullness and actually give you more out of your food. So what we're going to do now, Veronica, Katie, and Kirsten are going to be passing out snacks. Please choose the one that you like most to use in this activity. While the snacks are being passed around, by a show of hands, how many people on a hunger scale are from, 1 or 2, starving, very hungry? Okay. What about 3 to 4? Better. 4 to 5? Okay. 7 to 8. And 9 or 10. Oh, phew. Okay. That pretty good. All right. So, does everybody have a snack? Okay. Awesome. Sorry. When you get your snack, make sure to put all your distractions away. Every time you eat, I want you to put away your phone, anything you have to write, anything you have to read. Put it away and have just the food in front of you. As you eat it, spend some time and really think about the smell and the taste and the texture. Ask yourself questions like, do I like this? Could I change something about this to make me like it better? Take the answers and decide if you really enjoy it. Continue to ask yourself about your hunger level as you eat. Keep track of how food tastes and feels in your mouth as you continue as well. All right, is everybody finished? Did anybody notice a change in taste? Yes, you. Great. What did you think it meant? That you weren't hungry anymore. That's exactly right. You had finished. You had reached your fullness level, and your body was trying to tell you it was done. So just to finish up, you all remember your level on the hunger scale beforehand? Let's see if that's changed. How many people from 1 to 2? Nobody. Awesome. 3 to 4? Not quite enough. 5 to 6? Perfect. 7 to 8? 9 to 10? Okay, a few got too much. That's okay, that happens. All right, now that we've discussed hunger and prepared snacking, Katie's going to talk to you about fullness and those foods that can help you fulfill your hunger.
Hi there, I hope you enjoyed that activity. I want to ask you if you know about fiber, if you know that food that we provided for you had some fiber in it. These foods do as well. Brown rice sushi, an excellent option to add more fiber into your diet. The snack that we provided for you has 3 to 4 grams of fiber. Excellent. You can check that off if you're 38 grams for men or 25 grams of fiber for women. Who knows? The average American eats about 15 grams of fiber a day, which is it's not enough. So maybe you think fiber is a topic for your grandparents, your parents. It's like, why do I need to deal with fiber? They're old. Well, we're going to get old, and we need to develop healthy and smart eating practices now so it'll carry on to the future, right? So, are any of you athletes? Are any of you at risk of developing diabetes? Are any of you trying to find a comfortable weight or perhaps lose a couple of pounds? Well, fiber has been seen to help with all of these topics. As far as for athletes, fiber helps you stay regular, or helps you find your regularity, which is important when you have a tight schedule with school and performance. You need to know when you have to go, so it's not a surprise. Because humans lack the digestive enzymes to break down fiber, this fiber becomes bulk. And this bulk is what we call insoluble fiber. It's fiber that our bodies don't break down, so it becomes this bulk that travels through our digestive system and helps the intestines stay stronger and healthy. Foods like whole grains, broccoli, brown rice, dark leafy greens do this. Try adding those into your diet once in a while. Soluble fiber like oats, beans, apples, lentils, these absorb water in your system and also delays the gastric emptying from your stomach into your intestine. So this tells your brain that there's food still in here, you don't need to eat more, which is kind of a helpful way to manage your weight or regulate your blood glucose levels. When I was putting this together, I was realizing that if I eat more fiber and water, and as a result, I eat less because I'm staying fuller longer, would that mean I would spend less money on food? Spend less at the grocery store? Isn't that a good idea? Shouldn't you give it a try and at least see if it works? But I like eating, and I enjoy the social aspect of eating. And if that means going out and eating salads with my friends, all right, I'm getting my fiber and my social activity. But how many times have you gone out and you ate whatever was in front of you because that's what was there, and you didn't really enjoy it? How many times have you ordered food and it wasn't really up to your expectations, but you ate it anyway? Or how this. How many times have you gone home and just ate everything your mom or dad made for you? Because you don't go home very often and parents make you the best food. And then you eat it all and you're stuffed and you're feeling nauseous and you have to lay down. And people call it a food coma. I don't know how often this happens, or maybe to you. I don't tend to let this happen because I don't want to hate myself and I don't want to feel uncomfortable. So I utilize this cue this idea that I'm going to share with you. So what is fullness? What is this feeling of I'm feeling good? It's kind of like a feeling of nothing. It's kind of like I'm satisfied. I can continue with my day and still be focused and be present and not be foggy-headed or tired or be put into this food coma. It's kind of this perfect balance. But the problem with eating these foods without thinking about it, something called mindless eating. Veronica mentioned mindful eating and being aware of what you eat. And Michelle took you through that mindful eating activity. But mindless eating is when you start eating and you have no idea of your hunger state, but you continue eating. And there's no way of knowing when you're full because you were never really hungry to begin with. So there's this disconnection between your mind and your stomach. And you get full really fast and you don't know how you got there. So maybe when you got this snack we gave you today, you're kind of hungry, it kind of satisfied you and you enjoyed the activity. But maybe some of you weren't. Maybe you were already full. You had lunch and this kind of added to it. Now you're overly full and maybe uncomfortable. It's a dilemma because you were in a social situation and you didn't feel like you could say no, right? But it's okay. It's okay to say no, thank you. It's okay to eat a little here and there. It's just listen to your hunger and then you will feel better. Try it out. Hunger and fullness is a kind of a biological adaptation that we've developed to eat when something's abundant, and sometimes there's the feast, sometimes there's the famine. It's kind of like stop or go. Sometimes, I know I have trouble, and probably you do too. When there's your favorite food in front of you, don't you want to eat it all? Because who knows when you're going to have it next? We live in this world where abundance is everywhere. There's a ton of food out there, and it's affordable, it's cheap. There are chemicals added into food products that trick our minds into eating more, trick our stomachs into not being satisfied. These plates, the size of plates makes a difference in tricking your brain to being satisfied. This is the same amount of food on different sized plates. Doesn't this make you look like, I need to eat more? This full plate is not full. Portions have increased significantly since we were younger. It's all about marketing and companies trying to get customers. And it seems like the odds are against us, but we need to be smarter than that. We need to start, the trick is, we need to start by checking in. And checking in is when you're eating and you stop and you pause. We've kind of talked about this already with the mindful eating activity. Think about the flavors and experiences that are with the food, but it's also important to take it afterwards. Think about how that food made you feel. See where your hunger status is, or your fullness status is, for that matter, and refer back to what you ate. See the portion size and see how satisfied you are. If you ate too much, you might feel really uncomfortable, so maybe next time you'll eat less. Maybe you feel perfect. And take note of that, so when you're in another situation, you'll eat the perfect amount, just so you can feel great. This conversation that you have with yourself may develop into this. You may learn something about yourself that you like this, you don't like that. You learn your preferences and desires, and it's okay to fulfill your hunger and to satisfy that hunger. That's what the key is. If you don't satisfy that hunger, you won't be satisfied. So the final part of our presentation is when that self-talk, that conversation you have with yourself, takes a negative road. With the pressures from the media, from our family, from friends, that self-talk that can develop might take an unhealthy form. If this healthy talk isn't developed at an early time or never developed, it can quickly take over and an eating disorder or disordered eating may develop. So I'd like to introduce Kirsten to finish off this presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Katie. All right, I would like you guys to think about your first experiences with food. You probably won't remember it, but when you're an infant and you're hungry, you cry, and when you're full, you turn your head to the side, close your mouth, and you cry again. You're already honoring your hunger and not even realizing you're doing it. Now, you're a toddler. You're going to have new experiences with food, texture, shapes, size. For the most part, you get to choose what you want to eat, how much you eat. But then parents start coming into play. They tell you that you need to eat even when you're not hungry. Or maybe they tell you you've had enough, but you're still hungry. Telling you that you can't have any dessert unless you've eaten your broccoli. My dad used to set a timer on the clock when I would eat all my veggies, and within 10 minutes, if I didn't eat what was on my plate, he would double it. It becomes a punishment or a reward system. Now you're on your own for the first time, and it's probably when you go off to college. Maybe you've never planned for your meals or gone grocery shopping or executed and cooked them. It's going to be your first time with roommates and seeing their habits and their rituals. You're going to wonder, you can eat pizza for breakfast, you can eat pizza for lunch and dinner, whatever you want. You can have cereal every day for all day long, every day, all day and every day. Okay. You're in charge of yourself, when you eat, how much you eat, what you eat, and how often. So what is the dieting mindset? It is any time that you decide you're going to lose weight. This can either be intentional with like a weight loss program, like Crake or Nutrisystem, where they have weigh-ins and maybe group discussions, or it could be a fad diet that maybe you've seen on television or in a magazine. An example of this would be the paleo diet, which is no dairy, no processed sugars or foods, as well as no grains. But a lot of the times it can be unintentional or you don't even realize that you're doing it. This could be eating only safe foods, which could be low calorie or fat-free food, or eating certain times of the day. Let's say you set a time at 5 o'clock that you're not going to eat after that time. Well, you might go to the gym at 7, or you might have to study for a test later on, or maybe you have an exam. You're going to need nourishment in order to get through this time, so you should not deny yourself food when you're hungry at that time. Becoming a vegetarian or eating gluten-free is not for someone that has a dieting mindset. It should be for some people that only have celiac disease or a gluten allergy. And let's say you go to a party and there's a huge array of food out and everything looks great, but for some reason you don't think it's appropriate to eat in front of people, so maybe you only have a salad. And then you go home and you closet eat, or you're just eating everything in sight, but it really doesn't satisfy your initial hunger of what you should have just had at the party. So what does dieting do to your body? Well, within a few hours of not eating, your blood glucose levels go into pre-starvation mode, and then they release a hormone called cortisol, which puts your body into a protective mode. And so with chronic eating, what that does is you end up retaining more fat. With all the attempted diets that you do back to back, a lot of the time that slows down the rate of weight loss. And then yo-yo dieting, when you gain a bunch of weight and lose a bunch of weight, you usually gain that weight back in your abdominal area, and it can lead to increased risk of heart disease. And let's say you decide this little Hershey's Kiss, you're not going to have it for 1 month. The problem with that is you're going to obsess about that little kiss and have more cravings for it. And then when you finally take off the restriction, you're going to overeat it. Probably not just have this one kiss. You might have a whole chocolate pie or a whole bag of these. It's better to just have the little treats that you would like to give yourself instead of restricting. When you have food restriction combined with skipping meals and you don't listen to your hunger cues, you tend to eat larger meals than you would normally, and then your fullness cues are no longer effective. What does dieting do to your mind? Well, a lot of the times you might be a successful person in your professional life, but if you set these restrictions or diets and you can't keep up with them, it makes you lose confidence and self-trust in yourself. And then the extra stress from dieting takes a toll on all other parts of your body and can lead to feelings of failure, lower self-esteem, and social anxiety. And a lot of the times if you've set these rules and you can't stick with them, you feel loss of control, and then you eat that item and you end up feeling guilty afterwards. And a lot of the times it can lead to eating disorders, which are any serious, complex, emotional, or physical addictions. Here's a great statistic I found out of a book called Intuitive Eating, that 35% of people trying to lose weight use unsafe dieting practices. And unsafe dieting practices are skipping meals, or it could be restricting a food item or food group. And 20 to 25% of that group end up with clinical eating disorders. And the clinical eating disorders are anorexia nervosa, which can be food restriction, inappropriate eating rituals, and obsession with having a thin figure. Bulimia nervosa, usually just called bulimia, is when someone eats massive amounts of food and then purges afterwards, and it's usually secretly. And they can either do this by induced vomiting, diuretics, laxatives, or excessive exercise. Binge eating disorder is when someone compulsively overeats and they feel powerless to stop, and a loss of control at the same time. So where does the desire to diet come from? Is it self-inflicted? Is it from what's around us in society? Is it from friends or family? Do you think this girl's happy with her body image? Is she healthy? This girl was 18 when she had the opportunity to move out of the country for the first time and be on her own. She was in an industry that didn't care about her weight or her healthiness, but rather what she looked like in pictures. She soon realized in order to do well, she needed to lose weight, so she looked to other models to see what they were doing. Some were binging and purging, others were just drinking massive amounts of coffee and smoking cigarettes. She turned to limiting what she ate. At first it was just salads, maybe some fruit, a little protein, but it became much more than that. She did not listen to her hunger cues or honor her hunger. She was irritable, lightheaded, her stomach ached all the time, and she'd come close to fainting. Her energy level was low. She would come home from work exhausted and crash. She felt numb both emotionally and physically. And she only cared about her body image and not what it was actually doing to her body. What started as a restrictive diet became a full-fledged eating disorder, anorexia. And the reason that I know this is because this girl is B at 18, and I was lucky enough to have friends and family that helped get me through this tough time and get back on track. Your body needs energy, and in order to have energy, you need to eat. And not only just eat, but honor your hunger and listen to your hunger cues. So today we went over why you should listen to your hunger, planning for your hunger, as well as some great snack ideas, foods that keep you full, as well as damages of dieting. Thank you so much for joining us, and please grab a nutritional pamphlet on your way out. If you want to stick around and ask us any questions, we would love to talk to you. Thank you so much.
I'm hungry. I'm hungry.
Yeah.